Have you ever stood before something so massive that it felt like the weight of the world pressed down on your chest? A towering skyscraper, a colossal ship, or a mountain range stretching endlessly toward the horizon. These encounters are more than awe-inspiring. They strike at something primal, a deep unease that whispers, "You are small, and this does not belong to you." For some of us, this reaction goes far beyond discomfort. It transforms into an intense, all-consuming fear. Megalophobia, the fear of large objects. This isn't just about size. It's about power, vulnerability, and the visceral confrontation with our own insignificance. But why does size evoke such terror? Is it purely psychological, or is there something evolutionary buried deep in our subconscious that triggers this fear? And most importantly, what does this tell us about the limits of human understanding? Today, we begin a journey into the unsettling, fascinating world of megalophobia. We'll uncover why giant objects intimidate us, what this fear reveals about our collective psyche, and how stories, psychology, and even culture shape the way we react to size. Stick around, because by the end of this, you might never look at tall buildings, endless landscapes, or ocean expanses the same way again. Fear is ancient. It's one of the most primal tools humanity has developed, survival mechanism to warn us of danger and keep us alive. But why does size, specifically, evoke such a powerful, instinctive response? The answer lies in the fundamental relationship between size and survival. Let's take a step back into the life of early humans. For our ancestors, size often meant danger. A larger predator signaled a greater threat. Enormous natural formations, such as mountains or vast rivers, represented obstacles that were almost insurmountable. In these situations, fear wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. It was the voice that said, "Stay away. You cannot control this." Even today, that fear remains encoded deep within us. For example, standing face to face with an elephant, a whale, or even a towering tree can evoke a sense of unease. Despite knowing these entities pose no immediate harm, their sheer size creates tension. It's as if you're instinctively reminded of how small and vulnerable you are compared to their massive presence. However, megalophobia isn't just about survival anymore. It taps into something more existential, the fear of insignificance. When confronted with something overwhelmingly large, a skyscraper disappearing into the sky, or the vast depth of an ocean, we are forced to confront just how tiny, temporary, and fragile we are. We realize that these giants, whether constructed by humans or forged by nature, will continue to exist long after we're gone. Here's the unsettling part about megalophobia. It's triggered by things we see every day. Skyscrapers in cities, dams and cranes along industrial landscapes, monuments and massive sculptures designed to inspire awe. To someone with megalophobia, these are not mere objects. They're overwhelming presences, creatures almost alive in their enormity. Think about skyscrapers, for example. To most people, they are triumphs of human engineering, testament to how far we've come as a species. But to someone with megalophobia, those same buildings feel oppressive. Their endless height creates the sensation of being crushed. The very idea that these modern monoliths could collapse without warning triggers a spiral of fear. It's not just urban landscapes, either. Large natural formations like cliffs, glaciers, or mountains can invoke the same dread. Even something as vast and seemingly tranquil as the ocean can overwhelm someone with megalophobia. You stand at the shore, staring out at the infinite horizon, and suddenly it feels as though the deep, unknowable water might swallow you whole. What's fascinating is that even objects in controlled environments, things that pose no real danger, can trigger the fear. A massive dinosaur replica in a museum, the towering hull of a cruise ship docked at the harbor. Even something benign, like a giant billboard, feels distorted, as though its overwhelming presence defies some unspoken rule about what's normal. To truly understand megalophobia, we have to dive deeper into how our brains interpret scale. Our brains are incredibly good at making sense of size and distance, relying on visual cues to create a coherent picture of the world around us. But when something defies the parameters of what's normal, this system starts to break down. This dissonance can create an effect known as cognitive conflict, the uncomfortable feeling that arises when reality doesn't match our expectations. A skyscraper that stretches impossibly high into the sky, a massive dam holding back billions of gallons of water, or even a lifelike statue 10 times bigger than it should be, triggers this conflict. Our brains struggle to process their magnitude, and that discomfort manifests as fear. There's also the phenomenon known as the uncanny valley, often used to describe humanoid objects that feel unsettlingly lifelike. With megalophobia, the uncanny valley applies to objects that are familiar but distorted. A massive statue of a human figure, for instance, feels wrong because it's not supposed to be that large. Its exaggerated features violate our sense of what's normal, pushing us into a state of unease. Our fear of large objects isn't just biological, it's cultural. Myths, legends, and media have shaped how we associate size with power, destruction, and danger. Think about the Titans of Greek mythology. These massive beings were more than just large, they were forces of chaos, rebellion, and destruction. Or consider the Leviathan from the Bible, a sea creature so massive it defies comprehension. In Genesis, giants are described as mighty, men which were of old, men of renown. Genesis 6:4. These stories didn't just describe size, they tied it to the supernatural. Two forces too great for humanity to control or understand. Even in modern times, movies like Godzilla and King Kong reinforce this association. In these films, size equals threat. Massive creatures demolish cities and disrupt the natural order. These narratives seep into our subconscious, framing large objects as inherently dangerous, even in real life. But what's perhaps most unsettling about megalophobia isn't just the size of things, it's what that size represents. Large objects don't just overwhelm us physically, they confront us with the concept of infinity, something far greater, something that exists entirely beyond our control. Think about the vastness of the ocean. You're staring at a body of water so immense it seems to stretch forever. What lies beneath the waves is unknowable. It's not just the size of the ocean that's terrifying, but what it symbolizes. The infinite depth, the secrets it hides, and the realization that you will never fully understand it. Even the night sky, vast and silent, taps into this fear. Space is the ultimate representation of size, its scope stretching beyond human comprehension. For those with astrophobia, a related fear of the universe's vastness, the sight of endless stars and galaxies brings an unbearable weight of insignificance. For individuals with megalophobia, the struggle is constant. Imagine planning a trip, only to realize the city you're visiting is full of towering landmarks, or avoiding certain museums, knowing they contain statues or replicas that will leave you frozen in fear. Everyday life becomes a labyrinth of avoidance. What makes this phobia particularly difficult is its invisibility. Unlike more commonly discussed fears, like arachnophobia or claustrophobia, megalophobia rarely enters public conversations. This leaves many sufferers isolated, unsure of how to explain and manage their fear. The good news: megalophobia doesn't have to be permanent. Therapies like cognitive behavioral therapy (CBT) help individuals reframe their thoughts. Exposure therapy, where individuals are gradually introduced to their triggers, can also reduce the intensity of the fear over time. In some cases, education and knowledge can demystify the fear. Learning about how skyscrapers are engineered to be stable, or how oceans sustain marine life, shifts the focus from fear to fascination. Large objects force us to confront two opposing truths about human existence. On the one hand, they remind us of our insignificance. On the other, they awaken a sense of wonder at the immensity of nature, the scale of human achievement, and the infinite complexity of the universe. This balance between fear and awe is what makes megalophobia so unique. The very things that terrify us often inspire us as well. They compel us to explore, to create, to grow as they remind us of our limits. So the next time you find yourself standing at the base of a towering mountain or staring out at the endless ocean, take a moment. Feel the fear, but also embrace the wonder.